Hi, and welcome to Astrology and Earth Magic. I'm Jen, and I'm here to provide a little astrological wisdom to guide us through eclipse season that is coming up, and we're going to have a little helpful info. In particular, this video, we're focusing on traveling during an eclipse. So sometimes it is what it is, and there's not much you can do about it, especially when you travel on business. If you have a planned family getaway that you can't change the date for, even time off constraints with work, and then all of a sudden you book your trip and then you realize down the line, oh no, there's an eclipse during this time, which is exactly what happened to myself and my husband, which gave me the idea to do this video. We booked our vacation last year, and then as I'm going through this year and the eclipses and all the moon phases and whatnot, I saw this and I was like, oh no. But doesn't have to necessarily be bad. So that's kind of why I want to focus on it a little bit, because some of you might have some upcoming trips planned. So we have a lunar eclipse coming up next month, and we have the partial solar eclipse. And so this one in particular I'm going to talk about is the partial solar eclipse in Virgo on the 29th degree. Yes, that critical anaretic degree of Virgo, just to make that partial eclipse a little more potent. So here in New England, it's going to be about a 20% totality. And we actually are going to be traveling during this time, as we usually vacation during my birthday week. And this is when the eclipse just happens to fall this year. We're going out west. So it will be a little further than the eclipse's path here in the United States, which is mainly in New England, the corner of Virginia, eastern Pennsylvania, and all of New England's pretty much going to find a little more effects than the rest of the United States, but still it's going to be a partial here as well. So this is a solar eclipse, and this is in the sign of Virgo, and that's a mutable sign. It's a partial eclipse, impactful, but not as much as a total eclipse, of course, would be. And you know, when you add in that 29th degree in there, its effects will be a little more intense because of that. They'll be felt faster and with a sense of urgency. Mutable sign eclipses do happen a little bit faster, and it's a little bit shorter time span than, say, a cardinal an eclipse in a cardinal sign, or even in a fixed sign. So they go a little faster, they don't last as long, they don't take as long, but because this is on the 29th degree, it's going to be having that little urgency feel to it. So a solar eclipse, just to kind of overview, is a new moon that is in a close proximity to either the north or the south node. This one is in close proximity to the south node. And you know, so it's a south nodal solar eclipse, and that is when the moon is between the earth and the sun, blocking its sunlight. So of course we'll do a complete video about that and about the whole eclipse, but this one, again, we're just going to focus on if you're traveling during this time and what to kind of look out for, which you can use kind of in your everyday life as well. But again, don't worry, because it doesn't necessarily mean your vacation is going to be a complete, you know, horrible vacation, a complete flop. Eclipses, they encourage us to change, to make a change. And because, again, it's in the mutable Virgo, it's going to be a fast change and felt quickly. Usually these mutable eclipses, they have the biggest effects within the first 3 months. So especially look at, and you can track when the sun hits that square degree. So when it in Sagittarius, and even in the opposition of Pisces, that's about 6 months later. And you can even fine tune it by, you know, seeing when the moon's going to be falling into those particular locations as well, and see when the effects are going to really start peaking, or, you know, kind of coming to completion, coming to a head. Virgo is that worker bee. So if you have a work trip during this time, it can really have its advantages, but it can also have its disadvantages, kind of seeing how you play it out. An eclipse can, again, signify an abrupt ending, something unexpected that happens that almost forces a new beginning. The South Node, again, is a release. It's kind of like a shedding away, cutting ties, dissolving of what is not beneficial in order to evolve. So dissolve to evolve. And Virgo is kind of that sign that really likes to cut the fat. It likes to not have any of the nonsense. It just likes, boom, 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 here's the list, here's what we need, and here's, the way we're going to do it. So it's going to go really well together if you are trying to fine tune some things at work, if you're going on a work trip. Maybe if you're going on a trip to apply for a new job and get, so when you're on this trip, what do you need to release? Maybe there is some toxicity in the office or with coworkers. Maybe you have some bad habits you're looking to get rid of. What is exactly holding you back from evolving in like your workplace, maybe in your job, how you interact with your coworkers, perhaps. Again, this is fine tuning and cutting spending, perhaps. Maybe you find, that you've been spending money and, maybe you're going to doge the whole situation and kind of do that kind of thing, just cutting staff, cutting things out that really you don't need to have anymore. Virgo is practical and logical. You can make those split-second decisions. This trip can signify a change, a new expected contract, perhaps, something new that pops up that might be of a benefit, or something shocking that could come up, doing something that can cause termination, perhaps. So you want to really take care that you're not on this work trip and maybe hooking up with a coworker or something like that that's going to be found out, and the whole world's going to find out, kind of like that guy at the I think it was Astronomy was the name of the company, surprisingly, and they were at that Coldplay concert, and then the whole world saw them, and they both, I think, got fired for it. So you don't want to do something like that. Don't take this as time like, ooh, I'm out and about and I'm gonna, do some stuff. Don't do something you shouldn't, because this is a mercurial sign. So, news and things coming out is going to be a key thing here that could be that unexpected piece that is going to, either help you climb up the ladder or knock the ladder right out from under you. So, you could be, again, hearing shocking news about a, coworker as well that you then have to take care of. You also want to be careful not to be overly critical at this time. Virgo has a tendency to do that and just fire somebody on a whim, or just quit your job on a whim, which could be the result of having, doing this during an eclipse, where you're just like, what, after this job, I'm out. And, things might not go well during your work trip and you end up just wanting to leave. And then like maybe 3 months down the road, when you're not finding another job, when, things aren't working out that well, when you start getting really short on cash, then you start feeling those regrets. So if you're traveling on a work trip, again, there could be something that has to do with that work base, with something, coworkers wise, or cutting the fat, really doing something, Virgo, that is going to make a huge change and going forward, that, is going to be felt for a while. And, something, 3 months from now, you're going to start really seeing the effects of. So if you're traveling for personal reasons, again, don't automatically say, oh my God, something horrible is going to happen, my plane's going to crash or something like that. Well, hopefully that won't happen, because I am flying, and that's always in the back of my head. I hate flying. It's not my favorite thing to do, but when you want to go to good places, sometimes you have to. But you want to check your chart and see how it falls, see the aspects it's making to the planets in your own chart. Now, since my husband and I will be traveling, we're going to look at both of our charts and, to compare with the chart of the eclipse. So with this eclipse, the moon and sun is again in Virgo. The ruler is Mercury, who along with Jupiter rules the sign of travel. So however you're traveling, that is a good thing. So, it is the ruler of travel. So traveling during this eclipse might not be so bad after all. Mercury is also going direct. So that's something you want to check, and it is. So that's another good thing. And Mercury is sextile to Jupiter, that other planet of travel, pretty much. So during this trip, no matter what kind it is, personal or work-related trip or whatever you're doing, curiosity, adaptability, and communication, and even good fortune. So say you do have a flight and, hopefully there's no delays or cancellations, but if there are, this might actually be beneficial to you. So it might actually be something that happens for a reason. And say, everything happens for a reason. If your flight gets canceled, maybe something was wrong with the plane that they found out. So something that you could find out longer down the road that could have been harmful, but it actually was beneficial. So the release of this, because remember that South Node, that's the release, could be the end of your old plans and maybe onto a new plan. Maybe if you get diverted somewhere and you're going to this place, you get diverted somewhere else, you have to stay there for a while, you really enjoy it. Maybe it's on a good line that you have astrologically, and it's just, you have a blast and you're like, you know what, I wish we just came here. So you just never know what's going to happen. So this mutable sign helps you to kind of go with the flow, and anything that pops up, with good communication and really, being able to adapt, you'll be able to kind of, just go with the flow. Mercury actually is making a grand trine in air signs. Mercury is in the sign of Libra and is trine with Pluto in Aquarius. It's also in a trine with Uranus in Gemini. So all those air signs are represented here. So air travel hopefully will be smooth, because that trine is kind of like, just harmonious and working together. So if you do have a bunch of layovers or whatnot, hopefully they'll go well. And if there are changes, you'll adapt easily. You'll be able to book something really quickly, and maybe you'll get there a little bit earlier, or again, who knows what happens. But I think air travel during this time will actually go pretty smoothly because of this grand trine in air. So this can also be a very freeing and liberating kind of grand trine. So maybe, you're going to feel that freedom, and it's going to just, kind of take your cares away. It could be like an emotional or spiritual release. You're free from bosses, management, responsibilities of work, maybe responsibilities of home that, when you're not home, you can't be forced to mow your lawn and that kind of thing. So you're getting away from those responsibilities. You're feeling that freedom like you do on vacations. But this could be something very beneficial to you, especially if you are under a lot of stress, and you could feel the benefits of this, in a few months. You just have that kind of, just that emotional breakthrough, perhaps, or spiritual breakthrough, spiritual release, that's just like, you know what, I'm going to make this change, and I'm going to start this now, because, when you're on vacation, you're feeling good, you're feeling positive, hopefully anyway, and you're, okay, so how can I feel this way in my everyday life? And maybe this will be the key things that you're going to take forward and start making those changes that are going to start taking effect, like in the 3 to 6 months from now. Be sure to really pay attention to your gut feelings. You want to kind of purge out the negative, release it, let it go, get rid of all that dead weight that you've been carrying around with you that is holding you back from certain things in life. Maybe take this time to really get in some nice meditation. If you're busy constantly when you're at home and with work, and now that you're taking some time and you're away, you're forced to kind of not do those things. So take the time to do positive things, positive, mental awakenings, perhaps, to just kind of like really meditate on things, which is something that we really plan to do. And we'll get into that. Mercury is in opposition with Neptune and Saturn. Neptune is in Aries, so this actually makes an upside down grand kite. So if you're looking at the chart, we have the grand trine, and then we have down here the little peak of the kite, which is topped off with Neptune in Aries, that fire sign, and then Saturn in Pisces, that water sign. So again, we still have some mutable energy, but we also have that fire energy in there. And so it makes up that grand kite foundation, but it's kind of, if you look at the chart, it's kind of pointing straight down. If you're not familiar with what a kite is, I just did a video about the double kites that we had. That's going to be linked at the end. Definitely check that out. Gives you a little bit more information if you're wondering. So this Neptune and Saturn, this is where you need to really be wary, where you kind of need to use that Saturn to kind of keep yourself under control, to, maybe take it down a notch, not let yourself fly away on that kite. That's why it's pointing upside down instead of straight up. So if you look at that other video, it's pointing straight up, and, so you're soaring high. This is going to keep you a little bit more grounded. Neptune can really skew your reality. So it can make you, perceive things a little bit different than, maybe you were going to go down a street that seems kind of shady, but it's like, oh, it's vacation, whatever. You want to stay in tune to your intuition. You want to be street smart, use those smarts that Saturn gives you, the things that you learn about in life that you can take with you. Just because you're on vacation doesn't mean everything's going to be hunky-dory. Things do happen. If you have any significant intuitive messages coming in that you just can't get out of your head, you want to pay attention to this stuff, because Neptune is helping you out with that, and Saturn is helping you out to kind of stay focused and kind of, stay under control without doing anything rash. Also, you don't want to let yourself get taken advantage of with someone, telling you about, maybe here's an excursion that you have to do, or, let's do this, let's do that. You want to be a smart tourist and not a gullible one. You don't want to end up as the missing person on the cruise ship that, ends up missing for 25 years, like that new Netflix the documentary that's up about the girl that went missing on vacation because, maybe drinking a little bit too much, that Neptune kind of, you want to have that Saturn, put the brakes on it a little bit so you feel like you're still in control. Don't let yourself get out of control. You want to always stay in control, know your surroundings. Again, be a smart tourist, don't be a gullible one. Now, for me in particular, during our vacation, the eclipse is actually 2 degrees from my natal Mars, and this is in my 9th house, which in your 9th house, that's travel, spirituality, knowledge seeking, higher learning. And we are returning to a place that really, when we went there last year, and it really transformed us. It transformed our thoughts on life and thoughts on kind of where we're going in life. So this kind of could be that extra push, that extra, your travel. This is a place you might want to stay. Maybe, your spirituality will be open. And so that's why we actually plan during the eclipse to get ourselves to the continental divide, because that's about where we're going to be going. And on that continental divide, it's kind of like that, the crossroads. You're at the crossroads. So to really kind of, hone in, like, okay, I'm ready for some big changes in my life, really try and make it as impactful as possible. Because of the place we're going, we just love it so much. You know, we want to move there someday, so we want to look out for those flags, those places that really talk to us, those what makes us feel good, you know, inspirational. So this is kind of why we're going to be doing that. And, you know, during the eclipse, of course, conjunct my Mars, it can ask you, you know, it can cause you to act without thinking things through and just kind of doing things at the spur of the moment. An abrupt change, ending to have a new beginning, doesn't necessarily always mean it's going to be something great. So I'm not going to go out there and just like call into work and say like, hey, I quit, I'm staying out here, and then like, oh shit, now what am I going to do? You know, but as far as like knowledge seeking, it will be for us, like I said, that kind of investigatory trip, with Mercury as the ruler of this eclipse. We're going to be trying to take in everything what we can, trying to gain the knowledge of these different places that we're going to be traveling to along the way. So we're going to be going into Wyoming, Montana, Idaho, looking at different towns that we're actually looking for property and like, would we really want to live in this place? We're looking at this from across the United States. So this is going to be that investigation, that mercurial, you know, going place to place, trying to see and learn what we can. Venus also is going to be trine my natal Jupiter. So good vibes, perhaps good fortune, you know, beautiful surroundings. It's a beautiful place out there. Maybe who knows what could happen. With that Venus trine to Jupiter, that's so much positivity. So I'm really excited about that. Mercury also is, you know, of course, that ruler of this eclipse is conjunct my sun, which is ideal for communication. Maybe putting out YouTube content, which I'm going to be doing. So make sure you guys stay tuned because there's so much to see and I'm going to try and put out a lot. And the ability to really adapt to anything, again, that comes our way. So, you know, if something does come up, something good, bad, indifferent, we'll be ready for it. Saturn-Neptune will be conjunct, the Saturn-Neptune conjunction will be conjunct my natal Jupiter. So I could easily get swept away with the illusions of grandeur, with everything seeming so beautiful, but it might not be logical. So I want to be careful of that. Very easy when you're in a beautiful place to get carried away. Pluto is trine my natal Pluto, and that is only within 30 minutes, so not even a full degree. Uranus is also trine my Pluto. So seeking and seeing and understanding the world in a different way with a transformational and liberating rebirth. Kind of had that last time, so I wouldn't be surprised if I felt that way again. And one more, I also have a third level zodiacal releasing peak in Virgo. That again in my 9th house, which is the sign of travel and the sign of this eclipse. And my level 1 is actually in Sagittarius, which is, you know, could be relocation and travel peak. So if you look at by 3 signifiers, I have plenty, because I also have Venus as a perfected year this year, but because we're going on my birthday, it actually changes to a Mercury perfected year. So yes, the sign ruling the eclipse. So I feel like this trip is going to be very beneficial. If you watched the last year's video I did on our trip, there were some problems, and with Mars kind of messing with some of my planets, I did drop something on my foot, and for the first 2 days I could barely even walk and was in excruciating pain. So kind of being careful of that. Don't see anything too bad coming up, so feeling really positive. So again, though, with all this, we need to be careful not to get swept away, because remember that Saturn-Neptune in that square with my Jupiter. Don't get swept away. Again, don't run out there and just quit my job and not ever want to come back, because we got Chili, my cats, my kids, my grandbaby to come back to. So, you know, don't make any rash decisions. So I am, you know, very excited to experience this eclipse, because I think it's going to be really, really exciting for us. Now, my husband, he has, I had to write that one down. He has Venus trine his natal Venus. He has Sun conjunct his natal Pluto. He has Venus trine his moon. He has Venus sextile his Jupiter, which is activating the grand kite that he naturally has in his natal chart. So this can, I mean, it's so much positive. I've never seen so much positive. He does have some negative influences in his chart with the outer planets, but I mean, that's it's going to be over a year or something, to that effect, because they take so long to move. So this whole year he is going to be feeling the effects of that. But again, we don't want to get swept away by all the excitement of it, even though we are super excited. And now I'm kind of even more excited to experience going away and being on vacation, traveling during an eclipse. So again, check out the video during the eclipse, because I might even try and go live when we're at the continental divide at the exact moment of the eclipse, to really just take it all in and feel the surroundings around us and which way we're going to be pulled. And it's going to be even more inspiring, I think, an ending with a new beginning. So at the crossroads here, we'll meditate there and let intuition and those visceral thoughts just really take over. So we'll take y'all there with you, with videos and fun stuff to come. So do you guys have any plans for the eclipse? Where will we end up in 3 months? So these are all things that I'd love to hear about in the comments. So if you have big plans for the eclipse, definitely let me know. Write them in the comments. Let me hear what you think about traveling. Are you nervous about it? Of course, like, subscribe, and stay tuned. Lots of fun stuff coming up, and I hope to see y'all soon. Bye.